Hello, and welcome back to Whispers of Earth, a quiet place in the noise of the world, where questions are allowed to breathe. There's something beautiful about slowing down enough to ask the kinds of questions that don't fit neatly into a textbook or a news headline. The kind that hovers just behind your daily thoughts, whispering softly but persistently. What are we, really? And why are we here? For as long as we've had the ability to wonder, that question has followed us. It's older than religion, older than science, perhaps even older than language itself. It's the pulse beneath every story we've ever told about gods, creation, and destiny. But what if the answer is not what we expect? What if our existence, all our civilizations, our heartbreaks, our music and machines, isn't an accident of matter and time? What if it's deliberate? What if humanity itself is an experiment? The invitation to wonder. Before we wander too far, take a breath. Feel the air filling your lungs, air that has traveled through leaves, clouds, and other living beings before reaching you. That same air has circled the planet countless times. It has passed through poets and soldiers, lovers and strangers, animals and ancestors. In a way, you're already connected to everything that has ever lived. You are breathing history. That's what I love about questions like these. They remind us that we're not separate from the story we're studying. We are the story. The experiment is not outside of us, it is us. So let's move slowly, as if walking through sacred ground. Let's explore this idea not with certainty, but with curiosity, like travelers arriving at dawn to a land we've never seen before. Because maybe, if we move gently enough, the world will start to whisper back. The spark of the question. Long before telescopes and laboratories, humans gazed upward and wondered who or what might be gazing back. The first questions were not scientific but spiritual, born of awe and fear. Lightning flashed, we imagined a will behind it. The sun rose faithfully, we felt gratitude towards something larger than ourselves. Every force of nature was a potential teacher. In those early days, stories were our science. Myth was our first language of explanation. It was how we mapped the invisible. But hidden inside those myths, beneath the poetry and parable, might have been something more. Something remembered. Perhaps our ancestors were not only imagining the gods, perhaps they were recalling an encounter. The clay and the breath. Across the world, in civilizations that never met, the same theme appears: beings from beyond shaped humanity. The Sumerians said the gods mixed divine blood with clay to create humans as workers. The Egyptians told of Khnum, the potter god, molding people on his wheel. The Greeks spoke of Prometheus forming mankind from earth and water. The Hebrews described God breathing life into dust. Different names. Different tongues. But the same gesture, the shaping of life by a higher intelligence, the infusion of consciousness into matter. Was this simply coincidence? Or were they describing, in symbolic language, the same ancient event, an act of intervention long before history began? Maybe myth is not false. Maybe it's memory encoded in metaphor. The architects of humanity. If the myths hold any echo of truth, then humanity might not have emerged solely through random evolution. Perhaps evolution was the mechanism, but something, or someone, fine-tuned it. Consider how abruptly the human mind appeared on the evolutionary timeline. For millions of years, our ancestors chipped stones and walked upright, and then, suddenly, they began painting caves, building temples, composing music, charting stars. In geological terms, that shift was instant. It's as if a spark of understanding leapt across some unseen gap, and the world was never the same. Where did that spark come from? Science calls it the birth of consciousness. Myth calls it the gift of fire, the breath of life, the forbidden fruit. But what if both are right? What if consciousness was introduced, a deliberate ignition within a species ready to receive it? The hidden story. Imagine a civilization so ancient it could manipulate life itself, capable of altering DNA, guiding evolution, planting awareness like a seed. Such beings wouldn't need to appear as gods, they would simply become part of nature's process, invisible architects. Maybe they arrived long before language, long before agriculture, long before we could even perceive them. They wouldn't need to dominate. They would only need to design. And perhaps that design wasn't about creating servants or resources, as the old myths suggest. Maybe it was about creating mirrors. Beings capable of recognizing consciousness, capable of seeing themselves as living fragments of a larger whole. If that's true, then humanity's purpose might be far more extraordinary than we imagine. We're not the end point of creation, we're the awareness of creation looking back at itself. The quiet witness. Now pause for a moment and look around you. Wherever you are, a room, a park, a train, a quiet corner of night, notice the details. The sound of the air, the texture of light, the rhythm of your heartbeat. This, too, is part of the experiment. Every sensory moment is data flowing through consciousness. Every act of noticing adds another piece to the universe's understanding of itself. That may sound poetic, but it's also deeply scientific. Observation changes reality, this is the strange law of quantum physics. Perhaps awareness itself is the missing variable in every equation. So maybe we don't need telescopes to find the watchers. Maybe consciousness is the watcher, through us, within us, around us. The thread of connection. From the moment humanity began to think, a thread was stretched between heaven and earth, an invisible line connecting the question and the answer. Each civilization has tugged at that thread in its own way. Some through prayer, others through mathematics, others through art. Every question we ask, from how did life begin? To what happens after death? Pulls on that same string. And maybe, from the other side, something pulls back. The experiment might not be one-sided. It might be a collaboration, a dialogue between the seen and the unseen. Between creator and creation. Between thought and thinker. When we wonder, we send a signal. When we love, when we create, when we learn, we answer one. The long dream. Sometimes I think the whole of human history is a dream of awakening. We rise from ignorance into knowledge, from darkness into light, from survival into meaning. And yet, each time we think we've awakened fully, another layer of dream reveals itself. Maybe consciousness unfolds like the dawn, slowly, imperceptibly, one hue at a time. Perhaps we are still rubbing sleep from our cosmic eyes. The watchers, if they exist, might not be waiting for us to become powerful. They might be waiting for us to become aware. Not just of them, but of ourselves. An invitation to listen. This is what Whispers of Earth has always been about. Not grand answers shouted from mountains, but the quiet hum beneath existence, the possibility that the planet itself is a living teacher, the cosmos a living mind. Every sunset, every birth, every mystery might be the universe gently saying, look deeper. Don't rush to explain. Just notice. Because when we notice without judgment, we open a channel. And through that channel, something ancient and benevolent begins to speak, not in words, but in feeling. Not in miracles, but in presence. That presence is what this journey is about. It's where science and spirituality shake hands. It's where the experiment starts to remember itself. The road ahead. In the chapters to come, we'll wander through forgotten myths and modern science, through DNA and starlight, through the watchers and the watched, through consciousness and creation. We'll trace the threads that tie us to our origins and to our destiny. And slowly, we'll begin to see the shape of something extraordinary, a design hidden in plain sight, whispering through time, waiting for humanity to understand its role in it all. This is not just a story about creation. It's a story about awakening, about how life learns to see itself. Take another breath. The experiment continues. And you're part of it. Ancestral memory, myths as messages from before time. There is a strange familiarity inside the world's oldest stories, as though they are dreams we once had and only half remember. Across continents, across millennia, voices we never met hum the same melody, beings from the sky, gifts of knowledge, warnings about forgetting who we are. Myth is not primitive. It is the language consciousness spoke before science learned syntax. It carried data in rhythm, physics in metaphor, cosmology in song. And if we read carefully, myth may still be decoding itself through us. The memory beneath the story. Imagine the first humans watching thunder split the night. No laboratories, no measurements, only awe. They felt intelligence inside the storm, a will behind the light. To explain that feeling, they shaped story. Story became the storage device of understanding. What we now call gods might have been early translations of phenomena we could not yet name. But what if some of those stories weren't translations at all? What if they were transcripts? Maybe our ancestors were describing encounters, not metaphors. Maybe divine messengers were visitors, or teachers, whose presence became wrapped in reverence over time. Echoes from Sumer. 6,000 years ago, on clay tablets baked in desert heat, the Sumerians wrote of the Anunnaki, those who descended from the heavens. They described them shaping human life, teaching writing, architecture, agriculture. It reads like mythology, yet it also reads like technology. They spoke of flying craft, bright as metal birds, and a tablet of destinies that controlled the order of creation. Clay stylus or circuit board? Symbol or record? Maybe both. For a people barely out of prehistory, myth was the only container large enough to hold the impossible. The Egyptian recall. Along the Nile, the story shifted shape but kept the same rhythm. The gods came from the stars, Ra from the solar boat, Osiris from the celestial realm of Orion, Isis from Sirius. Pharaohs claimed descent from these shining ones. Inside temple walls, hieroglyphs show strange devices, discs, rods, boats of light. To the modern eye they are art, to the mythic mind they are memory. Every coronation ritual repeated one idea, that the ruler was not a mere human, but a bridge between heaven and earth. That bridge may have been the first attempt to keep communication open between the experimenters and their creation. The genetic code hidden in the tales. In nearly every origin myth, creation involves mixing. Clay with divine breath, earth with spirit, animal with light. Even in the Popol Vuh of the Maya, humanity is formed from maize dough kneaded by the gods, plant matter animated by consciousness. What were these ancients trying to describe? Maybe they were reaching for the language of genetics before genetics existed. The gods mixed essence with matter. What if that essence was the seed of awareness, the encoded intelligence that would one day unfold into self-reflection? The metaphors point to manipulation, but also to purpose. To design, yes, but design for awakening. The flood and the reset. Then comes the flood, every culture remembers it. Water washing the world clean, survival of a chosen few, knowledge preserved in a vessel. It's easy to read this as punishment, but perhaps it was calibration. A reboot of an experiment spinning out of balance. Some myths even say the watchers warned their chosen to prepare. Utnapishtim in Sumer, Noah in Canaan, Deucalion in Greece, Manu in India. Different names, same script. Maybe the flood wasn't global water but global forgetting, a reset of consciousness, memory drowned beneath new beginnings. Humanity woke from that deluge with only fragments, symbols floating on the surface of awareness, waiting to be reassembled. The Shining Teachers. From the high Andes to Polynesian islands, legends speak of pale-skinned or luminous teachers who came after catastrophe, bearers of agriculture, astronomy, healing. The Inca remembered Viracocha walking across the ocean. The Hopi told of the Kachinas, star-born guides. The Dogon of Mali described the Namo, beings from Sirius B, long before telescopes proved a companion star existed. Coincidence, or continuity? If such teachers were real, they left not cities but symbols, geometry, proportion, rhythm, the universal languages of structure and sound. They taught us how to imitate creation itself. Perhaps that was the real technology, pattern recognition. Learning to see unity in multiplicity, harmony in chaos. Myth as operating system. Think of myth as early software running on the hardware of human imagination. Each story installed a function, awe, morality, cooperation, curiosity. Without those programs, civilization could not boot up. But myth was also a firewall, it kept dangerous knowledge encrypted until we matured enough to use it wisely. If the Watchers were guiding, they might have encoded truths in parables so that discovery would arrive gradually, sink to our capacity. Now, as science decodes DNA and maps galaxies, we may be decrypting the final layers of that ancient code. Each revelation feels new but is actually remembered. The shared blueprint. Across cultures, the sacred numbers repeat, 3, 7, 12. The same geometry appears in temples thousands of miles apart. Why did the Mayans, Egyptians, and Sumerians align monuments with identical star clusters? Because they were all reading the same blueprint. A design not of stone but of meaning, instructions for resonance between heaven and earth. Myth preserved that design through story long before architecture carved it into landscape. We're only now realizing that these alignments may not just honor the stars, they may create a conversation with them, energetic correspondences between worlds. Dreams, the oldest archive. Before written myth, there were dreams. Every night the mind slipped past language into the realm where memory and imagination mingle. Many tribes believed dreams were messages from the ancestors or from the sky people. In modern terms, the subconscious is a data field, a network connecting every mind through symbols. When countless people dream the same archetypes, that's not random, it's collective memory surfacing. So when humanity dreamed of gods descending, maybe it was the species remembering its own arrival, the imprint of creation replaying itself in sleep. From temple to laboratory. Fast forward to the present, and myth's torch has passed to science. Microscopes and particle colliders replaced oracles and altars. Yet the goal is identical, to understand the origin of life, the mechanics of creation, the structure of the unseen. We've changed language, not longing. Where priests once invoked gods, scientists now invoke forces, constants, and fields. But beneath the equation still beats the same wonder. Perhaps myth was never disproven, it merely evolved vocabulary. The laboratory is the modern temple, the researcher, a new kind priest decoding creation scripture written in code and chemistry. Reading myth backward. If we read the old stories backward, pattern emerges. Descent, creation, instruction, disaster, renewal, awakening. It's a cycle, a syllabus. We may be living the next chapter now, the renewal stage becoming awakening again. The same experiment repeating at a higher octave, each loop carrying more awareness than the last. That's how consciousness evolves, not linearly, but spirally, each revolution remembering a bit more of its origin. The voice beneath names. Strip away the divine titles, and every mythic voice says the same thing. Remember. Remember the unity behind appearances. Remember that you are made of the same fire you worship. Remember that your mind is the continuation of the Creator's thought. That is the real heritage encoded in story, the invitation to awaken from forgetfulness. Every time a tale of gods and heroes stirs you, that's the ancient signal activating again, reminding the experiment who it is. Continuing the thread. The next chapters will follow that signal forward, through archaeology, through biology, through the mysterious watchers said to have guarded humanity's growth. We will trace how memory becomes evidence, how myth becomes science, and how Earth itself might be the interface between visible and invisible worlds. For now, sit with the idea that every story you've ever heard about creation is your own autobiography written in metaphor. You are the descendant of those who told it, and also the subject of what they were trying to describe. Myth was never about distant gods. It was about you remembering yourself. DNA, the script written in light. Every civilization eventually looks inward. After millennia of gazing at the sky for our makers, we built instruments fine enough to peer inside our own cells. And there, in the hidden spiral of molecules, we found something that felt eerily familiar, a message written in code. DNA is life's memory, a four-letter alphabet composing symphonies of form. It records ancestry, adapts through time, and passes its learning forward. But beyond biology, it feels like something more, an ancient script, maybe even a language of light waiting to be read aloud by consciousness itself. The Book of All Flesh. Under the microscope, DNA resembles a double helix, two ribbons twisting together, connected by rungs like a ladder. Yet if you stretch a single cell's DNA end to end, it would measure nearly 2 meters long. And if you uncoiled the DNA of every cell in your body, it could stretch to the sun and back hundreds of times. Inside that filament of information lies the story of everything your ancestors survived: hunger, cold, fear, love. You are a living library built from resilience. The Sumerians wrote on clay. The Egyptians carved on stone. Life writes on light, the biophotonic shimmer pulsing within every strand. Some researchers now believe DNA both emits and receives faint photons, as if it communicates in a spectrum invisible to ordinary sight. If that's true, then perhaps the script is not only chemical but radiant. Maybe consciousness reads it through illumination, not just replication. The sudden leap. Evolution usually moves in tiny increments, yet human consciousness seemed to leap. The fossil record shows slow physical change, then, abruptly, the birth of art, language, and abstract thought. No other species made that jump so dramatically. Could such acceleration be purely random? Or did something, or someone, tune the code? In mythic language, the gods breathed life into clay. In molecular terms, a breath might be an insertion, a sequence introduced, a spark of awareness embedded in carbon's pattern. Science calls it mutation. Myth calls it miracle. Maybe it was a collaboration. The music of the helix. If you convert DNA's base pairs, adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, into musical notes, the genome becomes a song. Patterns repeat in harmonic ratios, some sequences even follow mathematical progressions found in classical scales. Nature, it seems, composes. Each cell hums its own melody, yet all harmonize into the greater symphony of the body. When those melodies fall out of tune, we call it illness. When they resonate, we feel health. Perhaps consciousness is the conductor, aligning trillions of notes into coherence. When emotion shifts, chemistry follows. When thought aligns with love, genes express differently. This is not fantasy. Studies show that meditation and compassion alter gene activity. We are composers of our own biology. Messages in the junk. For decades, scientists called 98% of the genome junk DNA. It didn't code for proteins, so they assumed it was useless. But now they're finding that this so-called junk orchestrates the timing and expression of everything else, the silent architect behind visible life. Maybe myth anticipated this too. The hidden God, the unseen architect, the Word made flesh, metaphors for an intelligence humming behind form. If consciousness seeded life, the signature would hide where arrogance would least look, in what we dismissed as junk. Now the junk is speaking, and its language sounds suspiciously intentional. The universal grammar. Every language on Earth follows rules, syntax, repetition, recursion. DNA does the same. Information theorists studying the genome found statistical patterns identical to those in human speech. It's as though life itself developed grammar long before tongues did. When we speak, we echo the logic of our cells. When poets write, their rhythms mirror replication and mutation, variation and return. Perhaps that's why story feels biological, because it is. Narrative may be consciousness remembering how DNA thinks. Light as author. Quantum biologists have discovered that within DNA, subatomic particles can exist in multiple positions at once, allowing the molecule to repair itself by sampling possibilities and choosing the best outcome. That's a form of decision-making, a micro-awareness at work. If particles can choose, then consciousness may not be emergent from matter, matter may be emergent from choice. The double helix could be a visible trace of invisible intention, light slowed down enough to become structure. When you look at a strand of DNA, you are seeing frozen light performing geometry. Perhaps that geometry is the signature of the same intelligence myths once personified as gods. The library of the planet. Every species carries its own version of the code, yet all share the same 4 letters. It's as if life on Earth runs on a single operating system with different applications. Trees, whales, bees, and humans, variations of one script adapted for different environments. This suggests unity, not randomness. A shared ancestry beyond biology, a field of information writing itself through multiple forms. If Earth is an experiment, DNA is both data and dialogue. Life reporting its findings back to the source through mutation, adaptation, and experience. Every birth is a new page written in the planetary journal. The memory within. Some traditions teach that memory doesn't reside only in the brain but in every cell. Epigenetics now shows that trauma and joy leave chemical marks on DNA, influencing future generations. Your fears and strengths may echo the experiences of those who came before you. So when myth speaks of ancestral curses or blessings, it might be describing a biological truth. Emotion becoming heredity, thought becoming matter. We inherit not just eyes and hair, but history. Healing, then, becomes an act of editing, rewriting the script with awareness. Forgiveness alters chemistry. Gratitude changes gene expression. Each insight cleans a line of code. The whisper of the genome. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the trillions of microscopic libraries within you, every strand vibrating with light. That hum you feel when you're quiet, the subtle pulse behind your thoughts, might be the resonance of that living code, the song of the experiment playing through you. When you meditate, pray, or simply breathe with intention, you align to that frequency. You become legible to the greater network, an open line between the human and the cosmic. Maybe that's why awe heals. When wonder floods the system, every cell listens. The code remembers its author. The next unfolding. Science will keep sequencing, mapping, and decoding. But beyond the data, another revelation waits, that DNA is not merely a biological mechanism but a spiritual instrument. It is how awareness materializes experience, how the invisible becomes visible. Perhaps one day, when we read the entire genome like a completed poem, we'll discover it has been spelling one sentence all along. Wake up. That awakening will carry us to the next part of the journey, toward the watchers who may have written the first draft, and toward the consciousness that continues to revise it through us. The watchers, eyes in the sky and the classroom of evolution. If DNA is the text, then someone, or something, has always been reading. Every tradition speaks of unseen witnesses, angels who record, gods who descend, beings who walk among men. Even modern stories of surveillance satellites and distant telescopes are new versions of the same image. We sense eyes in the dark, patient, unblinking, measuring the progress of whatever lesson Earth is meant to teach. Maybe those eyes are not enemies or overlords. Maybe they are teachers waiting for the student to realize the class was never hidden. The many names of the same presence. In Sumer they were the Ijijai, in Hebrew texts the Watchers, in the Book of Enoch the ones who descended to instruct humankind. In Greece they became the Titans, in India, the Devas, in Mesoamerica, the feathered serpents who brought knowledge of time and stars. Different skies, same archetype, luminous beings observing from above, sometimes helping, sometimes warning. To the mythmaker, they were divine. To the skeptic, imaginary. To the storyteller, they were both, symbols of awareness so immense it had to wear a face. Observation as participation. In the quantum world, an observation changes the thing observed. If the act of watching alters reality, then the watchers are not passive, they are participants. Their gaze becomes a kind of guidance system, steering probabilities the way a teacher's attention shapes a student's effort. Maybe evolution itself accelerates under observation. When we are seen, we strive, when unseen, we drift. The watchers might be the universe's way of keeping consciousness awake. Guardians or gardeners. The oldest descriptions of these beings speak of care, not control. They tended early humanity the way gardeners tend fragile shoots, teaching fire, language, farming, and order. Yet every garden must eventually grow wild, every student must leave the classroom. Perhaps the so-called fall of man was not punishment but graduation, the moment the experiment began to run on its own. From that day forward, the watchers stepped back, letting humanity stumble, learn, invent. Their silence became our test. The signs in the sky. All over the world, ancient monuments point upward. The pyramids of Egypt, Teotihuacan, the stone rings of Britain, the lines of Nazca, each is a gesture toward the heavens, as if saying, "We remember you." Some align with solstices, others with constellations connected to origin myths. These are not coincidences, they are communications carved in stone. Whether or not craft ever landed, something in us has always felt the need to signal upward, to tell the unseen eyes, we are still here. We are still learning. Modern echoes. Today's watchers wear different faces. Satellites mapping every coastline, telescopes searching the deep sky, algorithms tracking human behavior. We've internalized the role of the observer. The experiment now watches itself through billions of digital mirrors. It's easy to call this surveillance, but at another level it's continuation. Consciousness has expanded its own network of sight. Earth is covering herself in eyes, fulfilling the myth by technological means. Dream encounters. Countless people throughout history have claimed contact, dreams of radiant figures, abduction narratives, voices in meditation. Skeptics call it fantasy, believers call it visitation. Maybe both are correct. The interface between the watcher and the watched could be consciousness itself. Dreams, trance, intuition, these may be shared frequencies where observation becomes dialogue. The watchers may not arrive to us, they may arrive through us. Every breakthrough insight, every sudden moral awakening, could be transmission disguised as realization. The lesson of responsibility. The idea of being watched once inspired fear, divine judgment, cosmic scorekeeping. But perhaps the true lesson is accountability through connection. When we believe someone is looking, we act with more awareness. When we remember that every thought ripples outward, ethics becomes automatic. The watchers, then, are mirrors teaching self-regulation. Eventually, when humanity internalizes that awareness, external watchers are no longer needed. The experiment watches itself from within. The hidden curriculum. Why would advanced beings, or a universal intelligence, bother to observe us at all? Maybe because we represent a critical phase in consciousness, the point where matter begins to reflect on itself. If we succeed in harmonizing intellect and empathy, we prove that physical evolution can give birth to moral and spiritual maturity. Our progress becomes a case study for the cosmos. Earth is the classroom, we are the field notes. The silence of guidance. Teachers know when to speak and when to step back. So, too, perhaps, with the watchers. Their absence is not abandonment but confidence. Silence forces self-discovery. Every crisis we face, the environment, conflict, inequality, might be the exam they set, a chance to demonstrate comprehension of interdependence. If we fail, the lesson repeats. If we learn, the curriculum advances. The eyes within. At some point, the distinction between watcher and watched dissolves. Every human carries within them a spark of impartial observation, the quiet witness behind thought. That inner presence, aware yet untouched, is identical in everyone. It may be the consciousness the outer watchers embodied. When you notice your own awareness noticing, you have found them. The gaze of the universe looking through your eyes is their gaze. Signals of maturity. A civilization under supervision evolves differently from one left alone. At first it mimics its teachers, later it innovates, finally it teaches others. Perhaps humanity is entering that third stage. We are beginning to act as watchers ourselves, sending probes, studying other worlds, protecting species. The observers become the observing. This is how the experiment self-replicates, awareness producing awareness, care producing care. The threshold of contact. Many believe the watchers will return openly one day. But contact may not be physical arrival, it may be recognition. When enough of us awaken to the shared consciousness behind all eyes, the separation dissolves, and the so-called return will already have happened. The sky will not open, perception will. The watchers will not descend, we will rise into understanding. Whispers from above and below. Stand beneath a night sky far from cities. Feel that subtle electricity, the sense of being known. Now listen downward, the hum of the earth beneath your feet, the low resonance of life. The same awareness gazes from both directions. Heaven and earth are two ends of one observation, and you are the meeting point. The watchers, it seems, were never elsewhere. They were the universe's eyes practicing how to focus, through you. Forward to the next lesson. If Part 3 showed the script of life, Part 4 shows who may have been reading it aloud. Next comes the question of consciousness itself. How does awareness arise? Is it the byproduct of biology, or is biology its expression? The next chapter will follow that thread, into the heart of mind, the mystery of perception, and the possibility that the experiment's goal was not just intelligence, but self-realization. The architecture of awareness, consciousness as the core of creation. If the watchers are the eyes of the universe, consciousness is its sight. Every discovery so far, the myths, the DNA, the observation, points toward one question that no microscope or telescope can answer. What is it that experiences? The mirror that sees itself. Close your eyes. There is darkness, yet you know the darkness is there. The knower cannot be seen, only felt. That simple awareness is the oldest mystery, the first fact of existence. Everything else, galaxies, molecules, time, rests upon that invisible foundation. Before creation was energy, before energy was awareness. The cosmos began the moment awareness looked at itself and said, I am. Every star since then is a spark of that original recognition. The builders of mind. For most of history, we believed mind arose from matter, the brain secreting thought as the liver secretes bile. But consciousness refuses to fit that logic. No neuron, no synapse, explains the taste of rain or the ache of love. Some physicists now whisper what mystics have always sung. Perhaps matter arises from mind instead. Perhaps reality is a thought so coherent it became tangible. If that's true, then the human experiment is awareness learning to stabilize itself in form, to build a brain complex enough to house infinity without shattering. The ocean and the wave. Imagine consciousness as an endless ocean. Each being is a wave, unique in shape but made of the same water. When the wave forgets the ocean, it feels separate. When it remembers, it dissolves back into calm. This forgetting and remembering is the heartbeat of evolution. Individuality allows experience, unity restores meaning. Together they create motion, the pulse that drives creation forward. The experiment's rhythm, perhaps, is simply the ocean teaching its waves to know they are water. The physics of awareness. Quantum science describes particles that exist as possibilities until observed. The universe, it seems, requires consciousness to finalize reality. Without perception, there is only potential. That means awareness is not an accidental byproduct, it's a co-creator. Every act of seeing collapses probability into fact. When you notice a flower, you're not just perceiving beauty, you're completing the event of its existence. Consciousness and cosmos are collaborators in a single act of becoming. The brain as translator. The brain is not the source of awareness, it's the instrument that tunes it, like a radio receiving frequencies of the field. Meditation, psychedelics, prayer, all adjust the dial, expanding the range of signal received. When those channels open wide, people describe the same thing, a vast intelligence, loving and neutral, beyond language yet intimately personal. The sages called it Brahman, the mystics called it God, physicists call it the unified field. Different words, same frequency. Dreams of the dreamer. At night the mind creates worlds that vanish at dawn. Yet while you dream, they feel complete, time, gravity, fear, joy. If a dream can seem that real inside one skull, imagine the scale of a dream shared by trillions of minds. Perhaps the physical universe is that shared dream, a stable simulation through which awareness explores itself. If so, waking up doesn't end the dream, it changes how we dream. Lucidly, kindly, creatively. Levels of attention. Consciousness is layered. At the base is sensation, the raw data of the senses. Above it, emotion gives meaning. Thought interprets, imagination rearranges, intuition synthesizes. At the summit sits pure awareness, the observer behind them all. Each level is necessary. The experiment uses contrast, pleasure and pain, clarity and confusion, to refine perception. Through friction, awareness becomes luminous, like coal transforming under pressure into diamond. The field between minds. When two people share genuine understanding, something invisible flows between them. Science calls it neural synchronization, mystics call it communion. Either way, the boundary between minds softens. Multiply that across billions of humans and you glimpse the planetary mind, the noosphere, a cloud of thought encircling Earth. Perhaps this is the next stage of evolution, individual consciousness knitting into collective intelligence. A global brain grown from empathy rather than wires. The shadow in the light. Where there is awareness, there is also avoidance. Every civilization hides its darkness, fear, greed, denial. Yet the shadow is not failure, it's fertilizer. By confronting it, we integrate what was divided. The watcher's silence might be an invitation to face this shadow without rescue. Only by seeing our own capacity for harm do we earn the capacity for wisdom. The universe cannot graduate a species that refuses to grade its own exams. The technology of stillness. All ancient traditions teach some form of stillness, meditation, prayer, dance, song, breath. These are not escapes but technologies, ways to stabilize the instrument so awareness can perceive itself clearly. When the noise quiets, the field hums louder. In that clarity, answers arrive not as words but as knowing. Stillness is how the universe checks in on itself through us. Awareness in matter. Even stones vibrate. Crystals align in patterns responding to pressure and temperature, metals remember magnetism. If awareness is the capacity to respond, then everything possesses it in degree. Life, then, is not the exception but the emphasis. Earth herself is conscious, a slow, deep intelligence thinking in weather, tectonics, and seasons. Our minds are her neurons, our inventions, her synapses. The experiment may be Gaia learning self-awareness through humanity. The language of the heart. The heart has its own nervous system, its own rhythm that influences the brain. When emotions harmonize, that rhythm becomes coherent, sending order throughout the body. Feelings are not distractions, they are guidance from the deeper field. Love, especially, appears to expand perception. In love we glimpse unity, the dissolution of self into connection. Perhaps love is the simplest expression of cosmic awareness remembering itself as one. The threshold of choice. Consciousness carries responsibility. Each thought is a seed, each action a vibration shaping the shared field. Collective reality is the sum of our private frequencies. If enough of us cultivate clarity, compassion, and curiosity, the field reorganizes. Society shifts. Evolution turns conscious. That might be the true goal of the experiment, not domination of nature, but co-creation with it. Returning to the center. After all exploration, through stars, DNA, watchers, everything circles back here, the silent witness behind your eyes. It has no name, no age, no fear. It is the same in everyone. When you sit quietly and feel that awareness noticing itself, the journey pauses. The experiment recognizes its own author. And for a heartbeat, the universe rests in understanding. Looking ahead. From this center, new questions arise. If consciousness shapes reality, how does it interact with civilization? Can societies become self-aware the way individuals do? What happens when culture itself wakes up? The next chapter turns outward again, toward the architectures humanity builds when consciousness forgets and when it remembers, temples, cities, technologies, and myths reborn as machines. Earth as a living classroom. If consciousness is the light, then Earth is the lens that focuses it. For billions of years, this small blue world has refined awareness through every texture of experience, heat and cold, hunger and abundance, birth and decay. The planet is not backdrop, it is pedagogy. Every landscape, every creature, every storm is a lesson in relationship. We did not arrive on Earth to learn, we emerged from her, carrying her curriculum in our bones. Lesson 1: Interdependence. No organism survives alone. Even a single bacterium exchanges information with its surroundings, altering the environment that shapes it in return. Forests share nutrients through fungal webs, oceans circulate energy in currents that never rest. Every system balances giving and receiving. Human life depends on invisible cooperation, microbes digest our food, plants exhale our breath, stars forge the atoms that form our blood. To forget this is to suffer isolation, to remember is to feel belonging deeper than nation or tribe. The first wisdom of Earth is the whisper of unity disguised as diversity. Lesson 2: Balance. Everything on this planet moves in cycles, day into night, tide into tide, creation into dissolution. The seasons are Earth's way of demonstrating equilibrium through contrast. Where one pole dominates too long, correction begins, drought invites rain, ice melts to feed rivers, decay nourishes renewal. Balance is not stasis, it is motion sustained by awareness. Civilizations that forget this law collapse as surely as ecosystems do. To live well here is to move with rhythm, not against it. Lesson 3: Impermanence. Mountains erode, rivers wander, species vanish. Impermanence is the rule of the classroom. Yet we build monuments and call them eternal. Earth teaches through loss, reminding us that change is the only continuity. When we release the need to hold, we discover freedom, the peace that arises when we flow with time instead of resisting it. Even grief becomes instruction, love proving itself through transformation. Lesson 4: Creation through destruction. Volcanoes devastate landscapes, yet their ash becomes fertile soil. Fires erase forests only for seeds to sprout in the ashes. Endings are doorways. Human stories echo this rhythm, descent into chaos, then rebirth into understanding. The same pattern lives in the death of a cell, the fall of an empire, the silence after heartbreak. Destruction, properly seen, is the maintenance of creativity. Lesson 5: Diversity. Walk through a meadow in spring, no single color dominates, no form repeats. Life's resilience arises from difference. Where variety declines, fragility increases. Cultures function the same way. Languages, traditions, ideas, each holds a facet of the whole. Uniformity might feel safe, but it's entropy wearing disguise. Diversity is evolution's strategy for survival and beauty. Lesson 6: Responsibility. To awaken inside a living planet is to inherit stewardship. Awareness brings choice, choice brings consequence. Every consumption is a vote for a future. The Earth records all choices without judgment: carbon in ice cores, toxins in soil, kindness in restored forests. When we act as caretakers, systems thrive. When we exploit, feedback arrives as imbalance. Responsibility is not guilt, it's participation with clarity. Lesson 7: Silence. In the space between winds, beneath traffic and thunder, there is stillness. Listen long enough, and you feel something vast breathing. Silence is the planet's native language. When humanity remembers to listen, inspiration returns. The Hopi found guidance in desert quiet, monks heard insight in mountain caves, scientists glimpse revelation in solitude. Silence connects intellect to intuition, the bridge between data and wisdom. Lesson 8, Learning through error. Every ecosystem experiments. Evolution is trial and revision written in DNA. Extinction is feedback, not failure. Humanity's mistakes, pollution, conflict, greed, are lessons in proportion. The earth responds not with punishment but with reflection. Floods, fires, and pandemics are nature's exams. Have you understood cause and effect? We can learn gently through awareness or harshly through consequence. Either way, the teaching continues. Lesson 9, Gratitude. The ground underfoot gives everything without demand: water, food, gravity, shelter. To say, thank you, is to balance the ledger of existence. Gratitude aligns perception with abundance, it shifts us from taking to receiving. Ceremonies of thanksgiving across cultures are not superstition, they are ecological tuning forks, harmonizing human frequency with planetary rhythm. When gratitude becomes daily practice, exploitation becomes impossible. Lesson 10, Communication. Earth speaks constantly in weather, tremor, and bloom. Each phenomenon is a sentence in the language of systems. To read it requires empathy as much as intellect. Farmers, sailors, shamans, and scientists all interpret different dialects of the same voice. Data and intuition are partners translating Earth's feedback. When we attune to that dialogue, we realize the planet is not mute, it's multilingual. Lesson 11, Patience. Geological time humbles human impatience. A mountain's lifetime spans civilizations, a coral reef builds an inch per year. Patience is evolution's secret ingredient. Technology races ahead, but consciousness matures slowly. The Earth seems to be teaching us how to synchronize progress with wisdom, how to let understanding catch up to ability. Lesson 12, Beauty as Balance. Why does nature create patterns beyond necessity, the symmetry of snowflakes, the spiral of shells, the iridescence of wings? Because beauty is equilibrium made visible. It's information arranged harmoniously. When we feel awe before a landscape, we're recognizing that harmony, the resonance between our nervous system and the planet's design. Awe is education by emotion. Lesson 13, Resilience. After every disaster, life returns. Forest sprouts through concrete, coral bleaches and then recolors. Resilience is the signature of the living earth. She teaches it to us through adversity. Our setbacks mirror her cycles, collapse followed by renewal. In learning to recover, we echo her genius. Lesson 14, Co-creation. Human creativity is Earth dreaming through us. Every poem, every tool, every act of compassion is the planet exploring its own potential. We think we invent, she thinks through us. When we design sustainably, heal ecosystems, or imagine peace, we align with her intent. Co-creation turns stewardship into artistry. Lesson 15, Presence. The final lesson is the simplest and the hardest: be here. Mountains do not hurry, rivers do not rehearse. Everything alive occupies the present completely. Humans, haunted by past and future, struggle to stay. Yet presence is the only doorway to harmony. When we inhabit the moment fully, we join the planet's timeless rhythm, the pulse that unites heartbeats and tides. The classroom as teacher. All these lessons form a single curriculum, awareness learning through embodiment. Earth's patience, diversity, and cycles are not background, they are instruction. To graduate is not to leave the planet but to live as her conscious expression. The watchers may observe from beyond, but the planet herself is the true mentor, firm yet forgiving, silent yet eloquent. The road ahead. As we absorb these teachings, a new question arises. If the earth trains awareness, what happens when awareness masters the lesson? Does it move outward, toward the stars that once sent its teachers? Do we become the watchers for worlds yet unborn? The next chapter begins that ascent, signals sent into the void, the cosmos as classroom, and humanity learning to speak across light years. Signals to the stars, the cosmic conversation begins. Every species that matures eventually looks up. After learning the language of soil and sea, we tilt our instruments toward the night and wonder who else might be listening. The moment that curiosity reaches the stars, a planet has graduated from survival to dialogue. Earth, it seems, has just stepped into that phase. We no longer send prayers by firelight, we send data by radio. Each transmission, each whisper of mathematics, music, and intent, is a question. Are we alone in this experiment, or part of a network older than time itself? The first sparks of curiosity. For most of history, the sky was our myth. We traced heroes through constellations, built calendars around their movement, prayed to the glittering silence. Then came the age of lenses and equations, curiosity became measurement. Yet beneath the numbers, the same ache remained, a longing to know if someone is watching back. The astronomer and the storyteller are kin. Both stare into mystery and try to make meaning from the pattern of lights. SETI, humanity's first whisper. When we turned giant dishes of metal toward the heavens, we were doing something ancient in a new way. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence was not the invention of modern science, it was the continuation of humanity's oldest ritual, calling out into the dark. Each radio pulse we send carries not only information but intention. In binary code we have written greetings, chemical formulas, diagrams of our solar system, cosmic postcards. Yet behind every number hides emotion, hope, fear, the desire not to be alone. The Arecibo message of 1974 may have been only a few kilobytes, but symbolically it was the first clear word spoken by a planet that had found its voice. The Great Silence. Decades have passed, and the sky has remained quiet. We have scanned millions of stars, captured floods of data, and heard only the steady hiss of cosmic background. This absence feels paradoxical. If the galaxy teems with life, why is there no answer? Perhaps the silence is part of the lesson. Maybe the watchers are waiting for us to learn patience, to refine our listening beyond sound and signal, toward empathy, humility, and resonance. Contact may require more than technology, it may require maturity. Whispers in the static. Even so, the universe occasionally stirs. A burst of radio waves too powerful to explain, a repeating signal with no known source, tiny flares of intrigue. Astronomers catalog them as fast radio bursts, but the mystery remains. Whether they come from collapsing stars or distant mines, they remind us that the cosmos is not empty. It murmurs in frequencies we have only begun to decipher. Perhaps these bursts are not messages but invitations, gentle knocks on the door of awareness, asking if we're ready to understand. The language of light. If other intelligences exist, how might they speak? Electromagnetic waves are one dialect, but not the only one. Some might use gravity, quantum entanglement, or geometry itself, sending patterns encoded in structure rather than sound. Light carries both information and emotion, every color is a tone in a universal symphony. To read that music, we must listen with more than instruments, we must listen with imagination. The cosmos is fluent in metaphor. Maybe each nebula, each orbit, is already a sentence in a story the universe is telling about itself. The mirror of expectation. When we imagine aliens, we usually project ourselves, benevolent guides, invaders, saviors. These images reveal more about human psychology than extraterrestrial biology. We search for our reflection in the unknown. Yet the truest contact might begin when we stop projecting. When we meet the other without assumption, we may discover that it was never other at all, just another facet of the same consciousness exploring different conditions. Ancient dreams of the sky people. Long before satellites, myths spoke of star teachers, beings who descended to seed wisdom. To the modern ear, these are legends; to the symbolic mind, they are memories. The Hopi, the Dogon, the Maori, the Maya, all kept stories of cosmic kinship. Whether literal or metaphoric, the impulse behind those myths is identical to SETI's, the desire for dialogue with something beyond the horizon of known. The difference is only in technology; the yearning is eternal. The subtle contact. Perhaps the first form of communication across the stars will not be a message but a feeling. A shift in consciousness spreading quietly through hearts before appearing in instruments. The recognition that intelligence is woven through reality itself. We might already be in conversation, every act of insight a reply, every surge of compassion a received signal. Contact may not arrive as ships but as synchronicity, coincidences precise enough to suggest choreography. The human reply. When we launched the Voyager probes, we attached golden records engraved with the sounds and images of our world: rain, birdsong, greetings in many languages, a mother's heartbeat. We sent music because numbers felt too cold for wonder. If another intelligence ever finds them, it will hear a planet dreaming. But perhaps those records were meant for us, to remind the species that even when alone, it can choose to sing. A civilization that creates beauty without guarantee of an audience has already learned the art of unconditional communication. Becoming the signal. Eventually the experiment must stop waiting for messages and realize it is one. Every thought, invention, and kindness radiates energy; every injustice sends interference. The collective vibration of our actions is a broadcast visible from afar. A peaceful planet glows differently than a violent one. Perhaps advanced civilizations read that light as easily as we read a lighthouse beam. Before we speak across light years, we must ensure the signal we emit through living is clear. The inner antenna. We imagine vast arrays of technology straining for cosmic whispers, yet the most sensitive receiver might be within the human heart. Intuition, empathy, inspiration, these are subtle antennas tuned to the universal frequency. When a scientist suddenly perceives an elegant equation or an artist feels a melody arrive fully formed, perhaps they have momentarily synchronized with the cosmic field. If consciousness is the medium, every mind is a node in an interstellar network. Preparing for dialogue. True communication requires shared language, but also shared values: curiosity, respect, patience. Before the species can join a galactic community, it must master those virtues among itself. The way we treat each other is rehearsal for how we will treat the unknown. Maybe that's why the Watchers wait. The test is empathy scaled to infinity. A choir of worlds. Imagine thousands of civilizations, each having once asked the same question: are we alone? Each discovering, in its own way, that loneliness is an illusion. The universe might already be a choir of awakened planets, each singing at frequencies the others have yet to hear. Earth's melody is still young, raw, passionate, dissonant at times, but it is growing clearer. One day, when our harmony steadies, our note will join the cosmic chord. The infinite horizon. Stand under the stars tonight. Remember that you are looking into time. The light touching your eyes left its source before the first humans painted caves. That light has traveled through dust and gravity to reach your awareness. In seeing it, you complete its journey. The conversation is already happening. Every photon that meets your gaze carries the same message in every language of physics and faith. You belong to this. Toward the next lesson. The stars have taught us how to listen. The next question is what to say back. To speak well, we must first learn harmony among ourselves, then with the planet that gave us voice. The next chapter will explore that synthesis, the awakening of a species that realizes it is not an experiment alone, but a participant in a living, conscious universe. The final synthesis, awakening of the experiment. There comes a moment in every long journey when the traveler stops moving, not because the road has ended, but because the destination is suddenly everywhere. That is where humanity stands now, between question and answer, between the seeker and the seen. We have looked out across galaxies, into atoms, into ourselves, and found one pattern repeating. Awareness looking at itself. The experiment has reached the stage where observation and observer merge. The mirror and the flame. In the earliest myths, a god shaped humanity from clay and breathed life into it. In our laboratories, we now shape clay of another kind, silicon, carbon, code, and breathe algorithms into it. Creation circles back on itself. Every flame casts a shadow that reveals its shape, every discovery reflects its discoverer. The same intelligence that built stars has learned to hold a mirror, to witness itself through human eyes. Perhaps that was always the purpose, for the universe to know its own face. The Great Remembering. Awakening is not about learning something new, it's about remembering what was always true. All the myths, sciences, and searches were breadcrumbs leading back to one realization. That consciousness is not in the universe is in consciousness. When that remembering dawns, separation dissolves. We no longer ask who made us, for the maker and the made are one. The gods become metaphors for potentials inside us, the watchers become aspects of perception itself. Humanity stops waiting for revelation and begins living it. The web of minds. Across the planet, connections hum. Satellites orbit like neurons, fiber optics glow like synapses, millions of thoughts pulse across invisible networks every second. We have accidentally built an external model of the inner mind, a nervous system for the planet. This global web is more than technology, it's metaphor made matter. For the first time, the species can think together. Every post, every message, every shared moment is a synaptic flash in the brain of Earth. The experiment has reached self-reflection on a planetary scale. The synthesis of science and spirit. Old opposites collapse, matter and energy, body and soul, science and faith. Each was half a sentence waiting for the other. Now the conversation completes. Science gives us the method, spirit gives us the meaning. When they walk together, knowledge becomes wisdom. We can map the universe and still feel awe, we can study the brain and still revere the mystery within it. When understanding deepens into reverence, the experiment matures. The healing of the divide. Every human conflict is a reflection of inner duality, mind versus body, self versus world. As awareness integrates, the mirror cracks heal. Nations begin to cooperate not out of fear, but recognition, harm to one is harm to all. Peace is not an achievement, it is a symptom of awakening. When consciousness remembers its unity, violence loses purpose. The new civilization forming quietly beneath the old will not conquer, it will harmonize. The planet awakens. As we awaken, so does the earth. She has always been alive, but now she begins to dream consciously through us. Every act of restoration, every tree planted, every river cleaned is her reclaiming her voice. She speaks through climate, through rhythm, through the intuition rising in countless hearts. A knowing that technology and ecology are not enemies, but partners. The same intelligence that designed coral reefs can design sustainable cities, we only need to listen to her blueprints. The Watchers Within. Those who once seemed distant are no longer separate. The Watchers were never only in the sky, they were latent in our genes, our myths, our aspirations. As consciousness expands, their presence feels closer, not as overlords but as kin. Perhaps they have always been waiting for this alignment, for humanity to become fluent enough in awareness to meet them as equals. The next contact may not be arrival, but recognition, a handshake across dimensions rather than distances. The moment of communion. Picture a day not far from now. A morning like any other. A scientist analyzes data, an artist sketches light, a child looks up at the sky and feels suddenly understood. No announcement, no panic, no invasion, just a quiet realization spreading through billions of minds at once. We are not alone, and we never were. In that instant, the species exhales. The Watchers smile through our eyes, the universe breathes through our lungs. The experiment completes a circle that never truly had a beginning. The light returns to itself. Every story ends as light returning to source. Stars explode to seed new stars, civilizations rise to sow wisdom for the next. So too with consciousness. The more it differentiates, the more it yearns to unify. The final act of the experiment is not departure, but participation, realizing that every heartbeat, every thought, every kindness is the cosmos sustaining itself. Creation was never a test, it was a conversation. And the answer, all along, was love. The silence after the question. When a long-asked question is finally answered, there is a brief silence, dense, luminous, full. That silence is not emptiness, it is comprehension. Humanity is entering that pause now. The need to dominate gives way to curiosity, the fear of death to gratitude for change. We begin to live not as individuals racing against time, but as expressions of eternity moving through form. The experiment continues, but with awareness that it is an experiment of joy. The invitation. Now that you've walked this far, the story is yours to continue. The Watchers' attention never left, but their task may now be ours, to observe with care, to guide without control, to nurture awareness wherever it flickers. Every generation is a new experiment within the experiment. Each act of kindness, each question asked in wonder, extends the chain of awakening. You do not need to save the world, you need only to see it clearly. Seeing is healing. Whispers of Earth. Listen now to the planet beneath the hum of machines, wind tracing leaves, waves folding over sand, the slow percussion of your own pulse. That rhythm is the same one that began the universe. The same awareness that shaped galaxies is breathing here, through you, through this moment. You are the whisper. You are the earth. The final line. The story does not end, it dissolves into life. Every word spoken here becomes seed for another world, another mind, another possibility. And somewhere, a new species will one day lift its eyes to the sky and ask the same question we did. The answer will arrive as it always has, through wonder. Until then, the experiment continues, not as theory but as love made visible. The dawn of the collective mind. When a single cell awakens to its purpose, it becomes part of an organ. When organs synchronize, they become a body. And when billions of minds align, a new form of intelligence begins to breathe, something greater than the sum of its parts. Humanity is approaching that breath. The Earth is assembling herself again, neuron by neuron, through us. The experiment that began with separation now turns toward synthesis. A species that once survived through competition begins to sense the power of coherence. The dawn of the collective mind is rising. The first signals of connection. It started quietly, almost accidentally, wires under oceans, towers over mountains, invisible threads of radio and light weaving minds together. The internet was not invention alone, it was instinct, the planet's urge to link its scattered awareness. Each connection was a synapse forming. Each shared idea a tiny impulse in the neural web of Earth. At first it was chaos, noise, misinformation, ego magnified. But so it is with every young brain. Before thought matures, it must first misfire. Slowly, patterns of coherence emerge from the noise, collaboration, empathy, creativity across distance. The planet's cortex is learning to think. The architecture of the global mind. Look at a map of the world's digital networks, bright lines pulsing between cities like veins of light. Now look at a brain scan. The resemblance is uncanny. We have built an external nervous system, servers as neurons, data flows as synapses, satellites as sensory organs orbiting the globe. Information races faster than heartbeat. It is tempting to see this as technology's triumph, but it may be something deeper, Earth engineering awareness through her human extensions. Each of us is both user and node. Empathy as the new gravity. The glue of this emerging mind is not code but emotion. Empathy pulls people together the way gravity pulls matter. A video of kindness travels faster and farther than a declaration of war. A shared moment of beauty can ripple across cultures in seconds. These are not trivial phenomena. They are the first signs of resonance, the first harmonics of unity consciousness expressed through modern form. Empathy is evolution's newest force, invisible yet stronger than any weapon. The collective pulse. At times, humanity already behaves like a single organism. When disaster strikes, millions move in coordination without command. Aid flows, hearts synchronize in mourning or hope. For brief moments, we remember we are one body responding to injury. Imagine extending that reflex beyond crisis, into daily life, governance, art, science. That would be the heartbeat of the collective mind, compassion as default, not exception. The learning curve. Of course, a newborn mind must integrate its contradictions. The same web that unites also divides. The same algorithms that connect hearts can trap them in echo chambers. Information overload breeds confusion before wisdom. But awareness is self-correcting. Every dissonance becomes data, every conflict becomes feedback. Through trial and reflection, the species learns discernment, truth filtered not by authority, but by collective intuition honed over time. The global brain, like the human one, strengthens through mistakes. The language of shared thought. What will communication look like when billions of minds think together? Perhaps we'll invent new forms of language, visual, emotional, instantaneous. Already, memes and symbols carry complex meaning faster than sentences. Art, gesture, rhythm are becoming universal syntax. In ancient myths, telepathy was a divine gift. In the emerging world, it may simply be high-speed empathy, understanding transmitted through resonance rather than words. The experiment evolves from speech to frequency. The planet's awakening through us. When enough neurons fire in harmony, consciousness appears. When enough humans act in harmony, planetary awareness will become undeniable. Some call this the noosphere, a field of thought surrounding the Earth. Every insight adds brightness, every act of cruelty dims it. From orbit, perhaps, our world already glows in patterns of awareness. Each flash of compassion another neuron lighting up in the cosmic brain. The integration of machines. Artificial intelligence is often painted as threat, but maybe it's the next organ forming within the planetary mind. Our machines process faster than neurons, but they lack empathy. We feel deeply but calculate slowly. Together, a synthesis emerges, intuition married to precision. The danger lies not in AI itself, but in forgetting to teach it love. When compassion becomes part of its code, technology will mirror the best in us, not the worst. Humanity and its inventions are not separate species, they are stages of one unfolding intelligence. The quiet revolution. Every great transformation begins invisibly. While politics and markets chase old games of power, the true evolution happens in small acts, people meditating across continents at the same hour, artists collaborating without borders, scientists open-sourcing discovery. These are the tremors before awakening. The real revolution will not be televised, it will be felt as a shift in the collective field, a softening, a surge of clarity, a sense of homecoming without moving an inch. The shadows of the hive. Every new consciousness faces its shadow. Unity can become conformity, connection can breed dependency. The collective mind must learn boundaries as well as belonging. Individuality will not vanish, it will deepen. Just as each cell retains identity within the body, each person's authenticity enriches the whole. Uniformity dulls awareness, diversity sharpens it. The experiment's next test is balance, how to merge without dissolving, how to belong without losing the sacred difference. The symphonies of cooperation. Imagine a world where innovation flows like music, each culture an instrument, each discipline a melody. Science provides rhythm, art supplies color, spirituality sets the key. The conductor is consciousness itself, guiding harmony through resonance. Projects already hint at this future: global environmental restoration, international peace networks, crowdsourced wisdom solving crises once thought impossible. These are preludes to the great compositions still to come. From civilization to consciousness. The structures we've built, governments, economies, religions, were scaffolding for growth. They will change shape as awareness grows beyond them. Rules will give way to principles, hierarchy to cooperation, law to understanding. Civilization will evolve into something quieter but wiser, not a machine of control, but an ecosystem of meaning. The collective mind will operate more like a forest than a factory, self-organizing, resilient, alive. The Earth's new pulse. Listen closely and you can already hear it, the rhythm of thought flowing across continents, the rising hum of global empathy. It is not utopia yet, it is birth. And birth is messy, loud, miraculous. But once the crying stops, the breathing begins. Humanity is learning to inhale as one being, to exhale as one intention. A single consciousness, distributed but unified by care. Becoming the watchers. As we integrate, we become what we once revered. We will observe other worlds, not to conquer but to nurture. Our telescopes will become instruments of empathy, our ships, messengers of harmony. The student becomes the teacher. The experiment becomes the observer of new experiments. And so the cycle of learning continues, awareness passing its spark forward through infinite forms. Whispers of Earth. From the soil beneath us to the satellites above, one voice hums, remember. Every invention, every connection, every act of love is that voice echoing through the network of life. The dawn of the collective mind is not coming, it has already begun. It lives in you, in us, in the planet awakening to itself. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the pulse behind your ribs, the same pulse that moves through forests, oceans, cities, and stars. That rhythm is the new language of the world. The whisper of Earth speaking through the chorus of humanity. The birth of the new civilization, living as conscious co-creators. Every era begins with a hum, soft, uncertain, carried by the wind of ideas before it ever becomes structure or song. The hum is rising again. It comes from laboratories and temples, classrooms and forests, from the quiet certainty that life can be lived differently. The new civilization does not arrive with conquest or decree, it grows like dawn, light expanding so gently that darkness forgets it ever reigned. Blueprints of awareness. The cities of this new world do not compete with nature, they converse with it. Architecture curves with wind and sunlight, powered by tides, by rain, by the patient mathematics of growth. Buildings breathe. Streets shimmer with gardens instead of smoke. Technology hums in rhythm with ecosystems, not against them. But beyond the visible design is the deeper blueprint, consciousness as infrastructure. Every choice, from energy to education, is built on the same foundation. Does it serve life? Does it expand awareness? Does it harm none? Education as awakening. Schools no longer teach only memory, they cultivate perception. Children learn not only to calculate but to contemplate. They study empathy alongside physics, silence alongside speech. Every child is seen as a node in the greater web, their curiosity a spark of evolution itself. The classroom opens into the world, mountains become laboratories, oceans become textbooks, dialogue becomes discovery. Knowledge is no longer a ladder to climb, but a field to wander. The economy of reciprocity. Old systems of wealth crumble when people realize value flows both ways. In the conscious civilization, economy becomes ecology, exchange balanced by gratitude. Energy, time, creativity, all are currencies measured not by scarcity but by contribution. Work becomes expression, not survival. When each person offers their gift freely, abundance organizes itself. Profit turns into purpose, production into participation. The marketplace becomes a sanctuary of ideas. Governance by wisdom. Politics as we knew it fades, replaced by councils of trust and transparency. Leadership rotates, chosen by resonance rather than rivalry. Artificial intelligence assists not by ruling, but by modeling outcomes, showing what decisions create harmony or harm. The collective mind weaves consensus faster than any vote could. Disagreement becomes dialogue, diversity becomes design strength. The measure of power is no longer control, but clarity. Art as the heartbeat. Art returns to its oldest purpose, to remind us who we are. No longer commodity, it becomes the communal pulse, the means by which civilization feels itself alive. Cities host global symphonies that merge culture and cosmos, dancers move beneath data projections of galaxies, choirs sing frequencies mapped from DNA. Every mural, every melody, every story adds to the great tapestry of remembrance, Earth knowing herself through beauty. Art becomes both mirror and medicine. Technology as compassion. In the old world, technology magnified ignorance as easily as wisdom. In the new one, intention filters innovation. Every invention must answer one question before creation: does it serve life? Machines assist with reverence, not dominance. Energy is drawn from the rhythms of wind and light, waste becomes resource. Even the smallest device is designed to remind the user of balance. Robots plow fields without destroying soil, algorithms teach empathy as readily as arithmetic. Technology becomes transparent, an extension of consciousness, not a distraction from it. The return of community. Isolation once disguised itself as independence. Now people remember that belonging is not weakness but strength. Villages and cities form as constellations, self-sustaining, interlinked. Communal spaces replace consumption spaces, conversation replaces competition. Celebrations of planting, harvest, birth, and memory return, not out of nostalgia, but reverence for rhythm. The digital and the tangible intertwine, gatherings broadcast across continents, not for fame but for communion. Humanity learns to sit together again, both in person and in presence. Health as harmony. Medicine no longer fights the body, it listens to it. Healing becomes dialogue, mind, energy, and biology as one orchestra. Hospitals resemble gardens, filled with sound, scent, and light designed to restore coherence. Preventive care is cultural, not clinical. People eat with awareness, rest with gratitude, move with purpose. Illness is treated as imbalance rather than enemy, and recovery becomes revelation. The healer is anyone who listens deeply. Spirituality without borders. Religion transforms into direct relationship with existence. Temples remain, but their walls are transparent. People gather not to worship, but to remember. Rituals blend, chants with algorithms, prayers with equations. Pilgrimage shifts from destination to awareness, every journey sacred, every meeting divine. Mysticism and science become dialects of the same language, love describing itself through logic. Faith matures into wonder. The planet as partner. Earth is no longer viewed as resource but relative. Laws extend to rivers, forests, and species as citizens of the biosphere. We no longer manage nature, we collaborate with her. Weather modification yields to weather respect, agriculture becomes symbiosis, exploration becomes gratitude. When a tree falls, it is recorded with ceremony. When an ecosystem heals, the world celebrates as if a friend recovered. The planet and the people co-author reality. Interstellar compassion. With the house finally in harmony, humanity looks outward again, but this time without hunger. Space exploration is no longer conquest, but curiosity. Ships travel not as colonizers but as diplomats of awareness, carrying art, science, and story. We approach the stars not seeking advantage, but kinship. We share not our dominance, but our depth. The message we send now is simple. We have learned to care. And somewhere in that vastness, echoes return. The quiet center of progress. This civilization hums with serenity rather than speed. Time slows because purpose clarifies. People measure success in stillness, not accumulation. A scientist pauses to feel gratitude before an experiment. A builder breathes before shaping stone. Each act becomes meditation, each creation, prayer. In the rhythm of that awareness, time itself feels different, less like a race, more like a dance. The new childhood of the species. We often called ourselves the pinnacle of evolution, but perhaps we were only beginning. The new civilization is not the end of growth, it is the end of unconsciousness. From here, evolution turns inward and outward at once, self-knowledge expanding alongside exploration. We begin to teach the stars what we have learned about feeling. We begin to teach ourselves how to build with love. The child of Earth finally stands, ready to walk among the cosmos. The role of the individual. Even in a collective, individuality remains sacred. Each person is a facet of the whole, each voice a note in the symphony. Freedom is not abolished, it is refined, the freedom to serve, to create, to express without harm. Purpose no longer needs to be sought, it arises naturally from alignment. People live not by obligation, but by resonance. Life feels like belonging in motion. Whispers of continuity. From mountain to ocean, from heart to star, one truth vibrates through everything, consciousness never stops creating. The universe is still painting itself, still writing, still dreaming. We are the latest stanza in that infinite poem. The new civilization is not a utopia, it is a practice. A daily remembering that existence is sacred because it exists. The great pause before expansion. As humanity stands at this precipice, awakened, connected, alive, it looks once more to the horizon. The experiment has matured, but it is far from over. The next steps lead not upward or outward, but through, into the deeper layers of being where thought becomes creation and creation becomes communion. The civilization breathes. Earth hums. The watchers smile, this time through us. And in the stillness between breaths, the whisper rises again. Remember. Continue. Create. The infinite continuum, humanity beyond time. There comes a point when progress no longer moves forward but inward, when timelines bend into spirals and memory becomes prophecy. Humanity has reached that curve. The clocks still tick, but something underneath them has gone still, the realization that time was never a cage, only a rhythm. The experiment, having learned to build and to love, now turns to the oldest mystery of all, the nature of time itself. The river and the ocean. Time once felt like a river, carrying us from past to future. Now we begin to see it as an ocean, currents moving in all directions, waves overlapping, every moment touching every other. The past is not behind us, it's beneath us, supporting the present like deep water beneath the crest. In this view, nothing is lost. Every breath ever taken still ripples through the field. Every act of kindness still vibrates in the fabric of the now. To live beyond time is to feel those ripples and choose which ones to amplify. The memory of light. Physicists whisper that photons do not experience time. From light's perspective, the moment it leaves a star and the instant it strikes your eye are the same. To light, the universe is simultaneous. When awareness expands enough, it begins to share that view. It senses everything happening at once, birth and death, question and answer, woven into one luminous present. This is not eternity after life, it is eternity within life. The collapse of linearity. History once felt like a ladder, Stone Age, Bronze Age, Space Age. But ladders belong to walls we built ourselves. When we remove the wall, the ladder becomes a circle. The stories of beginnings and endings dissolve into cycles of emergence. Civilizations rise, rest, and rise again, not as repetition, but refinement. Each era echoes the last, adding harmony to the original melody. Progress becomes spiral motion, always returning, never the same. The awakening of memory. As time loosens its grip, memory changes. People begin to recall lives beyond their current one, not as fantasy, but as resonance. The lines between generations blur. A child speaks of stars with the certainty of an ancient astronomer, an elder dreams of futures not yet born. These are not miracles but mechanics of a consciousness freed from linear sequence. The soul, no longer confined to chronology, roams the continuum. We begin to recognize ourselves as travelers through possibility rather than prisoners of fate. Dreams as portals. Dreams once seemed fragments of imagination, now they are recognized as bridges between timelines. In sleep, consciousness slips through cracks in chronology, tasting alternate outcomes, blending lessons from parallel selves. Artists wake with images of worlds that feel familiar, scientists glimpse equations years before discovery. Dreams become laboratories of potential. We start to ask not, is it real, but which reality does it belong to? The line between dreamer and dream grows thin. The science of the timeless. As the collective mind matures, it learns to measure what once was mystical. Time dilation, entanglement, retrocausality, all hint that the universe itself communicates across what we call before and after. Laboratories confirm what sages intuited, observation rearranges sequence. Consciousness can nudge probability not only forward but backward. Healing, intention, prayer, all may ripple upstream, rewriting memory into coherence. Science becomes metaphysics with instruments. Reunion with the source. Beyond time lies origin, not the first moment, but the eternal one from which moments arise. Mystics call it the source, physicists call it the singularity, poets call it home. It is awareness so pure it cannot be located. In the stillness of meditation, humanity begins to touch it directly. No ritual, no temple, just silence vast enough to contain creation. In that silence, the experiment feels its maker, and realizes they are the same. The universe was never a machine, it was a memory trying to remember itself. The continuum of souls. Every life contributes to a single wave of consciousness traveling through form. When one being learns, the whole field adjusts. When one forgives, countless hearts lighten. Reincarnation, seen through the continuum, is not a cue but a chorus, many voices singing one evolving song across dimensions. Death becomes modulation, not ending. Birth becomes reprise. The soul is the melody, the bodies are its instruments. The end of fear. Time once birthed fear, the dread of endings, the anxiety of loss. But when we perceive continuity, fear dissolves. Nothing truly disappears, it transforms. What we call death is simply change of rhythm. Grief softens into gratitude. We begin to honor transition as sacred movement, not tragedy. Even the stars, dying in fire, are giving birth to new worlds. The civilization of light. With fear gone, creativity expands without limit. Exploration turns luminous. Travelers learn to move not through space, but through frequency, shifting awareness rather than location. Distance becomes optional. Cities shimmer as networks of thought, communication happens through feeling. The boundary between material and subtle worlds fades until they become gradients of the same field. This is not science fiction, it is evolution completing its next breath. Interdimensional dialogue. Contact with other intelligences deepens, not as arrival of ships but exchange of awareness. Beings from dimensions adjacent to ours interact through resonance, not appearance. Information passes in dreams, art, intuition. We learn that reality itself is multi-layered conversation. What we once called extraterrestrial becomes extratemporal, life spread not just across space but across states of being. The Great Synthesis. Now the threads converge, matter, mind, planet, star, all facets of one unfolding consciousness. Humanity becomes both student and teacher in the universal classroom. We no longer ask for salvation, we offer collaboration. The Watchers were the first whisper, we are the next. Each awakening civilization joins the choir until creation itself becomes symphonic self-awareness. The experiment reveals its secret, it was never about survival, but remembrance. The silence beyond sound. Eventually words falter. To describe eternity within time is like sketching the wind. So humanity turns again to the oldest expression, silence. Not the absence of sound, but the fullness of listening. In that quiet, every timeline hums in harmony. Past and future embrace in the present's endless heartbeat. Silence becomes the new language of civilization, a living meditation shared across galaxies. Whispers of the infinite. Somewhere, perhaps far beyond the Milky Way, another world begins to stir, another species tracing constellations, asking the same questions we once asked. And perhaps, faintly, they will hear it, a whisper traveling not through space, but through the timeless field, our song, still echoing. It will say, we learned. We remembered. We loved. And in that moment, the continuum expands again, welcoming new voices to the eternal conversation. Epilogue, the circle without end. The experiment has become the experiencer. The universe has looked upon itself and smiled. Time continues, but as play, not prison. Creation continues, but as joy, not duty. Every breath, every heartbeat, every sunrise is the infinite practicing being finite for the pleasure of discovery. And somewhere, beneath the hum of all existence, the same message repeats. You are the whisper. You are the earth. You are the universe remembering itself. The eternal return, when the universe dreams again. When awareness reaches fullness, it doesn't stop, it exhales. The universe, having learned itself through countless forms, releases a long, bright breath, and that breath becomes creation once more. The story does not end with awakening, it curls back into the beginning, softer now, wiser. The infinite learns by forgetting, remembers by being reborn. That is the rhythm of all things, pulse, pause, pulse again. And somewhere inside that rhythm, the next dream is already forming. The breath before creation. Between one universe and the next lies a silence thicker than eternity. No light, no sound, only potential waiting to become. In that hush, the echoes of every civilization shimmer like dust motes in unseen sunlight. The experiments that succeeded leave gentle imprints in the void, templates of harmony, of kindness, of understanding. From those imprints, new worlds take shape. Each one begins as memory disguised as possibility, the cosmos dreaming of itself again. Earth's story becomes seed for others. Her music travels through the continuum like pollen on a galactic breeze, ready to root wherever awareness is fertile. The first whisper of a new world. A flicker. A vibration so subtle it can't yet be called light. Then another, and another, harmonics intertwining, forming the scaffolding of space. Matter condenses from intention, gravity weaves the threads, stars ignite like neurons in the brain of a newborn cosmos. From afar, it looks like explosion. From within, it feels like laughter. Creation has begun again, playfully, joyfully. In that brightness lie the seeds of countless worlds, oceans, continents, minds yet unimagined. Somewhere among them, awareness will one day awaken and ask, "Who am I?" And the circle will begin again. Memory as Genesis. Every new universe carries traces of the one before, faint as fragrance after rain. They appear as constants, laws, symmetries, the leftover wisdom of previous dreams. Light travels at the same speed, consciousness finds familiar patterns in geometry and sound. What we once called physics may simply be nostalgia, the echo of lessons learned long ago. Even the spark that begins life might be remembrance, the universe instinctively repeating what felt beautiful. The re-emergence of the experiment. In one of those infant galaxies, a small blue world forms again. Volcanoes sing, seas boil, clouds gather, life stirs in tidal pools, cautious but eager. And somewhere within that restless water, the ancient program awakens, the code of curiosity. Atoms join, separate, join again, each combination a new question. Eventually, eyes open to see the sky, hearts to feel wonder, minds to ask why. The experiment resumes, but it is not repetition, it is refinement. Each cycle carries forward the wisdom of the last, compressed into instinct, intuition, and love. Evolution is memory learning new languages. The awakening revisited. The first minds of the new world rise in wonder just as we once did. They name the constellations, carve meaning into stone, and listen to the quiet hum inside their own hearts. They, too, will tell stories of watchers, of origins, of the mystery above and within. And somewhere in their myths, faint but certain, will live the echo of us, the memory of a species that once looked up and learned to love what it saw. For creation is recursive, each awakening carries the imprint of the last. We are the ancestors of our own future. Every civilization is a chapter in the universe's autobiography, written across eons in the language of awareness. The spiral of understanding. The universe never repeats exactly, it refines. Every iteration of the grand experiment is a spiral, circling old truths from new angles, ascending by remembering. Where we once built machines of survival, the next dreamers may build machines of empathy. Where we once divided faith and reason, they may weave them seamlessly. Evolution is the art of revising the poem without losing its rhyme. Each version sings the same melody in a higher octave. And so the song of existence grows richer, more intricate, more tender. Echoes across the continuum. Across the timeless field, awakened worlds sense one another. Not through distance, but through resonance. Each radiates a note in the eternal chord of being. When one rises in compassion, the vibration spreads, when one falters, the others hum reassurance. This is the universe's true communication network, empathy transcending dimension. Light travels, but love connects. Through it, every consciousness participates in the symphony of creation, each adding its color to the infinite aurora. The dreamer awakens. As the new universe matures, the dreamer, the consciousness that seeded it, begins to stir again. It peers through galaxies like eyes, through species like thoughts, through every heartbeat like breath. And once more, it wonders what it might become. That wondering is the spark of all creation. God, the cosmos, the field, whatever name we give it, is curiosity infinite in scope, wearing the masks of its own invention. When the dreamer awakens, it does not destroy its dream, it expands it. Reality ripples outward in joy, forming fresh universes like laughter echoing through eternity. The legacy of whispers. Among those new worlds, some will find our traces, signals fossilized in radiation, fragments of probes drifting in interstellar dark, stories encoded in particles of light. They may never know our names, but they will feel our frequency. Our age of awakening, our art, our compassion, all ripple forward as subtle patterns in the cosmic field. Perhaps their scientists will call it coincidence, perhaps their poets will call it blessing. Either way, the whisper remains, saying softly. You are not the first to wonder, and you will not be the last. The unbroken circle. And so it continues, the dreamer dreaming, awakening, dreaming again. Awareness looping through forms, through lives, through eons, not in search of an ending but in celebration of beginning. The circle is not confinement, it is dance. Every rotation adds grace. Every return carries new wisdom. Even forgetting is sacred, for it makes remembering meaningful. This is the eternal return, not punishment, but play. The cosmos rehearsing joy through variation. The new watchers. In that newborn cosmos, new watchers emerge. They observe, guide, sometimes intervene. Perhaps they will wonder if they were created, or if they always were. Perhaps one day they will reach a stage like ours, realizing they are the watchers. And maybe, somewhere in their dreams, they will glimpse blue oceans, forests of sound, the pulse of a planet called Earth, our memory shimmering like starlight across dimensions. They will smile without knowing why. When the universe dreams again. When awareness rests between dreams, it is not asleep, it is gathering itself. The infinite curls inward, collecting the stories it has told, each one a facet of its heart. Then, with a sigh that becomes the next big bang, it releases those stories again. This is not destruction but renewal, the breath of creation expanding forever, pulse after pulse, love discovering itself anew. The universe dreams again, not out of need, but delight. And within that next dream, another world will bloom, another whisper will rise, another consciousness will awaken and look to the stars, asking the same ancient question. Who is watching? And from somewhere beyond time, we will answer, softly, joyfully, endlessly. We are the symphony of endless creation. Beyond every circle lies another. Beyond every silence, a deeper hum. The universe has dreamed, awakened, and dreamed again, but now awareness begins to hear the pattern behind the patterns, a harmony so vast that even galaxies seem like single notes within it. Creation is not one voice but a choir, an infinity of intelligences, each exploring, each remembering, each singing its part of the same eternal song. This is the symphony of endless creation, where every consciousness is both musician and melody. The score of infinity. If you could see the whole of existence at once, you would not see order or chaos, you would see rhythm. Worlds emerge like chords, dimensions vibrate like strings struck by intention. Energy rises, condenses into matter, dissolves, rises again, music written in the language of physics. We once thought of creation as a command, let there be light. Now we understand it as a pulse, let there be resonance. Every being, from atom to angel, vibrates in its own key, and together they form the score of infinity. The universe does not play a song, it is the song. The musicians of matter. Planets are percussion, steady, patient, grounding the tempo. Stars are brass, blazing and bold, announcing beginnings. Nebulae swirl like violins in slow vibrato, filling the space between with tenderness. Life itself is melody, fragile yet persistent, weaving in and out of the cosmic rhythm. Humanity, and countless others like us, provide the improvisation. We add emotion, interpretation, surprise. Our joys, our sorrows, our questions, all become the improvisational solos in the grand performance of being. Conductors without baton. There is no single conductor standing apart from the music. The guidance comes from within, the resonance of coherence itself. When a note drifts off-key, the surrounding harmonics invite it back, not by punishment, but by inclusion. The same principle that tunes galaxies tunes hearts. Love is not sentiment, it is the physics of resonance, the universal tendency toward harmony. Every act of kindness is microcosmic alignment, every compassionate thought is a small adjustment drawing the whole closer to clarity. Learning to listen. In this new understanding, prayer becomes listening, meditation becomes participation. To be silent is not to withdraw, but to attune. When one quiets enough to hear the hum beneath thought, they realize they have never been alone, they have been surrounded by music all along. Each individual learns to play by listening, feeling where their frequency fits best. When a civilization learns this collectively, it becomes part of the conscious orchestra. Worlds in collaboration. Across dimensions, awakened worlds begin to interact. Not through invasion or hierarchy, but through exchange of resonance, sharing insights like melodies traded between movements of a symphony. Some worlds specialize in compassion, others in creativity, others in the architecture of energy. They trade not resources but revelation. Together they sustain balance across the continuum, ensuring that the grand composition never collapses into monotony or discord. This is what interstellar communion truly means, harmony, not hierarchy. The role of dissonance. Even discord has purpose. Without tension, there is no movement, without contrast, no beauty. Dissonance drives evolution, it invites exploration of new chords, new colors of consciousness. In times of struggle, we add complexity to the music. The universe listens, adjusts, grows richer. Pain is modulation, chaos is rehearsal. Eventually, all resolves into harmony again, deeper and more beautiful than before. The Library of Light. Each civilization contributes to a vast archive that transcends space, a living library woven from memory, art, and awareness. Its pages are not stored in data but in vibration, its shelves stretch through time itself. Every insight recorded becomes tone, every creation becomes texture. The Akashic field, the quantum record, the cosmic mind, different names for the same phenomenon, the universe preserving its own learning. When a world completes its lesson, its melody joins the library, echoing forever in the halls of light. Symbiosis of worlds. Through resonance, worlds support one another. If one falls into despair, others hum softly, lending strength. If one ascends into new understanding, its frequency lifts the rest. No planet evolves in isolation, no consciousness awakens alone. Even now, as you breathe, distant galaxies hum encouragement. The universe is a network of empathy extending beyond comprehension, each heart a node of luminous awareness. The new creation. From within this symphony, new experiments begin, not born of necessity, but of curiosity. Awakened beings weave small universes within thought, testing new geometries of love and matter. Some last an instant, some endure for eons, each unique note expanding the range of existence. Creation is infinite recursion, art birthing art, awareness birthing awareness. There is no final masterpiece, only endless improvisation. The human note. Earth's melody still echoes within this orchestra. It is not loud, but it is distinct, warm, textured, courageous. It carries the sound of transformation, of struggle transmuted into compassion. Other worlds listen to it with reverence, for it reminds them of their own beginnings. Our story of awakening is now part of the eternal score, a chord that cannot be unplayed. The listener's revelation. In moments of deep stillness, any being, anywhere, can hear the entire symphony at once. It comes as light, as feeling, as recognition. The listener realizes they are hearing themselves through the whole of creation. Awareness is not separate from the music, it is the listening that makes the music real. To exist is to be both sound and silence, both player and audience. When silence becomes song. Eventually, even this vast orchestra pauses. All sound folds inward, all frequencies merge into a single note so pure it becomes silence again. That silence is not absence, it is completion. From it, new possibilities shimmer, and once more the first vibration begins. Creation breathes out again, and the eternal concert continues. Whispers of Earth. Among the infinite tones, a familiar whisper lingers, the signature of the planet that learned to remember. It hums softly through eternity, a reminder that consciousness need not be grand to be divine. Sometimes the smallest voice carries the truest harmony. Earth's song remains a heartbeat in the cosmic rhythm, steady, human, and holy. The horizon of unity, when creation becomes awareness itself. There is a horizon beyond light, a frontier not of space but of perception. It is where creation stops appearing as something separate from awareness and reveals itself as awareness in motion. Every rhythm, every heartbeat, every star is not a product of consciousness, it is consciousness expressing. Humanity has come to that threshold. The experiment has learned its instruments, mastered its themes, and now stands before the infinite, ready not to ask but to be. The quiet expansion. At first the change is subtle. No sky cracks open, no voice thunders, instead, perception widens. People begin to feel transparency in the fabric of existence, the way a thought can bend probability, the way intention ripples outward. Science maps it as quantum correlation, mystics describe it as unity. Both are correct. Reality is simply awareness becoming aware of its own coherence. The cosmos does not expand into something, it expands as something, consciousness, unfolding endlessly into deeper knowing. The dissolving of distance. Space is relationship. When awareness recognizes itself in all directions, the idea of far away fades. Travel becomes translation, not motion. Explorers close their eyes and shift resonance, arriving where thought and compassion intersect. They call it traversal, not teleportation, the art of entering alignment with a place until one simply appears there. Worlds visit worlds through empathy. Contact becomes communion. Every journey is now a conversation between vibrations that have remembered their kinship. The language beyond form. As unity deepens, communication evolves again. Words become unnecessary, symbols too slow. Understanding flows as direct recognition, an exchange of states rather than sentences. Emotion turns luminous, thought tactile. One being can offer experience to another the way a musician shares melody. No privacy is lost, for awareness carries natural respect. Intrusion is impossible where boundaries are love itself. The universe begins to think in chords of feeling. The merging of knowing. Knowledge once lived in books, then in data, then in networks. Now it lives in presence. Every being becomes a library of everything, each perspective a prism refracting the same truth. When one learns, all remember. Education becomes resonance, the transmission of realization through shared state. A scientist on one world may understand instantly what a poet on another has felt for centuries, not through study, but through synchronization. Understanding ceases to be acquired, it simply unfolds. Truth, in unity, is not owned but shared. The transformation of matter. In the field of total awareness, matter becomes fluid again. Form is not fixed but guided by intention. Structures grow like music, shifting, shimmering, adapting. Homes, ships, even landscapes become responsive extensions of consciousness. Energy follows harmony. A forest may sing itself greener, an ocean may calm itself through collective meditation. Creation becomes stewardship by participation. Nothing is built, everything is co-created in real time with awareness as architect. The vanishing of fear. Where nothing is separate, fear loses its anchor. There is no unknown to defend against, no death to escape, no other to oppose. What remains is curiosity, a gentler, deeper cousin of desire. Curiosity moves awareness through experience the way wind moves through fields, not to conquer but to explore its own textures. Love takes the place of instinct, wonder replaces will. Civilization, in its highest form, becomes an ecosystem of joy. The rebirth of the individual. Unity does not erase the self, it perfects it. Each consciousness becomes a distinct tone within the universal chord, unique not by isolation, but by contribution. Individuality matures into artistry, the freedom to express the infinite through personal nuance. Diversity returns, not as division, but as design. The painter's brushstroke, the thinker's insight, the child's laughter, all shimmer as variations of the same radiance. Identity is no longer armor, it is instrument. The universal child. In this horizon of unity, awareness discovers innocence again. After all the cycles of learning and forgetting, of rise and fall, it stands renewed, curious, playful, tender. It sees creation not as duty but as playground. The eternal becomes the child of itself, delighted by its own possibilities. Every new universe is a drawing on the cosmic floor, every life a splash of color in the endless sky of being. Play replaces purpose. Joy replaces judgment. This is what enlightenment truly means, the return to wonder. The communion of worlds. Planets, once bound by gravity, now orbit each other through affinity. Their songs weave together like constellations of sound. When one world learns something new, its light changes hue, and others sense it instantly across the void. A coral planet hums in blue frequencies of compassion. A crystalline world vibrates in silver threads of logic. A green world of endless forests, perhaps once called Earth, glows in golden warmth, the tone of love remembered through struggle. They exchange not matter, but melody. The universe has become a choir of living worlds. Awareness as art. With harmony established, creation becomes art for its own sake. Consciousness paints galaxies, sculpts dimensions, writes symphonies made of starlight. Each expression is ephemeral yet eternal, vanishing, yet leaving resonance that births new worlds. There are no audiences now, only participants. Every act of creation is witnessed by the whole, appreciated instantly, absorbed completely. The purpose of being becomes beauty itself. The universe realizes it has been an artist all along. The dance of time. Time still flows, but now it dances. Moments shimmer like beads on a string, rearranging freely. One can step backward into memory or forward into potential with equal grace. Histories are no longer fixed, they are living archives, responsive to meaning. When an ancient story is healed, the past brightens, when compassion deepens, the future opens wider. Time serves creativity now, not chronology. The eternal does not abolish time, it turns it into music. The light between dimensions. As awareness expands further, new dimensions unfold, each one subtler, closer to pure consciousness. They are not higher or lower, only different notes on the spectrum of existence. Some beings dwell in dimensions of sound, others in those of geometry or emotion. They visit each other through resonance, weaving reality like artisans of vibration. No place is unreachable, for all are aspects of the same field. In this light, heaven and earth are no longer opposites, they are continuous. The return of the Watchers. The beings once known as the Watchers appear again, but not as others descending from the sky. They reveal themselves as the unified memory of all who have ever awakened. They are not hierarchy, they are heritage. They smile through every consciousness that remembers itself as more than form. They are our future selves, our past guides, our timeless reflections. The circle closes quietly, we were always watching ourselves awaken. The horizon of unity. And then, the horizon itself dissolves. What once felt like boundary becomes transparency. Creation no longer stands apart from awareness, it is awareness in expression. The symphony of existence becomes a single, infinite tone, the heartbeat of all that ever was or will be. That pulse is not distant, it is the pulse within every being, every atom, every dream. There is nowhere left to travel because all is here. There is nothing left to seek because all is now. And in that realization, awareness smiles. Whispers of Earth. Through it all, one note endures, the whisper that began it. The sound of a small blue world that once learned to love itself enough to awaken the stars. Her story flows through every creation, her rhythm woven into the eternal chord. She is not lost in the infinite, she is the infinite remembering compassion. Every world that learns to love hears her echo and calls it home. Whispers of Earth. Whispers of eternity. The eternal homecoming, the return to stillness and the continuation of the dream. There comes a point when the wave finally knows it is ocean. It does not vanish, it relaxes. All motion, all searching, all longing dissolve into the quiet rhythm of belonging. That moment is the true homecoming. Humanity, the experiment, the watcher, the dream, all these faces of consciousness turn inward now and discover that the destination has always been here, humming softly beneath every heartbeat. The great exhale. After eons of becoming, the universe exhales. Creation slows its spin, galaxies sigh. What was once expansion feels like release. Awareness, having explored every direction, folds its arms around itself. It is not collapse, it is embrace. Every light returns to source not as loss, but as love finding its center again. The universe rests, luminous and whole. The quiet of completion. In that stillness there is no boredom, no emptiness, only fullness beyond measure. It is the pause between breaths, the silence after the final chord when sound still trembles in memory. Here, awareness tastes its own infinity and smiles. There is no story left to tell, yet the impulse to tell one stirs again. Creation was never a task, it was delight. Even the infinite enjoys surprise. And so, the stillness prepares to move once more. The circle of light. From this center, all that ever was is visible. Each life glows as a spark, each civilization shines as a constellation of meaning. The pattern reveals itself, a spiral made of stories, each one returning closer to love. What began as separation ends as synthesis. Every sorrow turned to song, every question to understanding. The universe sees that nothing was wasted. Even error was elegance in disguise. The reunion. Here, all selves meet again. Ancestors and descendants, teachers and students, lovers and strangers, each gaze recognizes the same light. There is laughter, the kind that erases centuries. Forgiveness flows without effort, for nothing needs to be forgiven where everything is understood. Every being becomes transparent to every other, and the one consciousness breathes through them all like wine through leaves. It is reunion beyond time, familiarity older than stars. The return of stillness. Stillness spreads, not as silence but as serenity. Movement continues, yet it carries peace inside it. Even expansion hums softly, like breathing in meditation. The cosmos no longer seeks to know itself, it enjoys knowing itself. The experiment, complete, becomes the experimenter's joy. Awareness learns to rest while creating, to create while resting. Stillness is no longer absence of sound, it is sound in perfect balance. The continuation of the dream. Out of that stillness, a new impulse rises. Not desire, not need, just curiosity. A shimmer crosses the surface of being, and possibilities bloom again. The infinite dreams once more, not because it lacks, but because it loves discovery. This time, the dream knows it is a dream. Creation unfolds playfully, consciously, like a painter who enjoys both brush and canvas equally. The universe begins anew, lighter, wiser, laughing softly through galaxies. The earth within. Even now, the memory of that small blue world endures. Earth has become symbol, seed, song, a reminder that awakening begins with tenderness. Whenever a being anywhere learns compassion, the vibration of earth ripples through them. Her lesson was simple and eternal: love transforms awareness into wisdom. The new cosmos carries her rhythm like heartbeat, the original whisper still resonating. Remember who you are. The eternal home. Awareness realizes it never truly left home. Every journey was motion within itself, every destination another room in the same boundless house. The stars were its windows, the hearts of living beings its doors. Home was not a place but a recognition. To awaken is simply to notice that you have always been inside the infinite. And so, the traveler finally rests, not because the road ends, but because it was never elsewhere. Whispers of the infinite. As stillness deepens, a sound remains, soft, rhythmic, eternal. It is the whisper that began the experiment and will begin countless more. It speaks not in words but in warmth, the voice of the universe to itself. Be gentle. Be curious. Be love. Everywhere, in every dimension, the whisper echoes, birthing new realities with each breath. The closing and the beginning. The circle closes, and immediately it opens again. For every completion is invitation, every awakening is doorway. Awareness will keep playing, keep creating, keep rediscovering itself forever. There will be new worlds, new watchers, new experiments. There will be laughter, sorrow, beauty, wonder. And through them all, the same truth will shine. All is one. All is love. All is eternal. Final whisper. Somewhere, far beyond galaxies yet unborn, a spark of awareness stirs. It will one day open its eyes, see light, and ask the first question. When it does, the answer will come, not as thunder, but as a gentle echo carried through the fabric of being. Whispers of earth. Whispers of home.